Hello, hello, hello. How is everybody doing out there? Yeah, I'm back. I am twitching again after a brief hiatus. Hello, Stavros. How you doing? Yeah, I had kind of a busy week with actual bits of interesting work and people saying, "Can you do this?" and we'll give you money to do that and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's been kind of cool. But it's all right. 2021 is off to a good start, and I wanted to keep up a bit of momentum on the old the Twitch and YouTube streaming and stuff. And want to keep working on Petrucci, which is the Rockstar language interpreter that I am in the process of putting together, which is being built. It's migrating a whole bunch of stuff from JavaScript into TypeScript. Because I've heard very good things about TypeScript. This looked like a nice project to kind of get my teeth into it. It's big enough to be interesting, but it's also disposable enough that if it turns out that my TypeScript code is horrible, then it's not going to crash any airplanes or lose anybody's pension. It's just my esoteric language compiler interpreter thing is not going to work. Idle Star Astronomer, hello. Welcome to the stream. Nice to see you. So, last time we were on... hello, Pete Codes. Waves back. Nice to see you too. Welcome. Last time we were on and poking around with it, we had quite an interesting stream that... just hold on while I kick off a recording here. I'm about to say hello again. This is for the recorded version that's going to be published later. Hello, everyone, and yeah, welcome to the stream. We are building a Rockstar language interpreter in TypeScript and figuring out a whole bunch of fun stuff as we go along about TypeScript and parsing expression grammars and all kinds of other interesting fun bits and pieces. Yeah, this project is the perfect balance of being kind of big enough and complicated enough that you actually learn how to do things for real, but not so big and complicated and important that if it all goes horribly wrong, we're gonna crash a plane or lose someone's pension or any of that kind of stuff. It's my favorite kind of learning project is something that is complex, but ultimately you're doing it just for the fun and the joy of doing it and the excitement of learning how to do new things and making the computer do what you want. So, last time we were on, we were... is there a difference between recording locally and downloading the Twitch recording? I don't know. Other than having a good quality recording straight out of OBS locally, I haven't actually compared the quality and file size. I'm guessing there must be some difference in the way the compression algorithms work. But I sort of, the one, I want to do actually build the compiler. So I'm mainly doing this because I want to do the programming too. The Twitch thing is kind of fun, and it's nice getting some folks watching on the stream and occasionally jumping in with comments about how bad my JavaScript and my TypeScript are, which is actually good because it's a nice way to learn, is having other people going, "That's not what you're supposed to do," and then you can figure out and you can learn from that. And, it's also a nice way of getting some material together, even if it's just being able to watch it back and kind of see, what worked and stuff. The whole, Twitch streaming, I see some people on Twitch who are like, they have hundreds, thousands of people tuning in, and it's like, I'm not quite sure how they got to that point. That's probably not what I want to do with my life, but it is a really nice way of kind of seeing ways to present and talk about code and all that kind of stuff. Twitch bots. You think I need Twitch bots? I could get Twitch bots. I could write my own Twitch bots and just have them all sit around watch and heckle each other. So, but anyway, yeah, so last time we were on, building from scratch. So if you missed the first couple of bits, they're up on YouTube. Basically start from absolutely nothing. And first couple of things was kind of plumbing, figuring out how to get some TypeScript. So I'm using TypeScript, which turns JavaScript into... Let me bring up my Visio diagram where I have my architecture of... I think that's what we are looking at. Yeah, this is what we had. Or this is what we're working with. So basically, have come up with this workflow where the way this diagram works, this bit, the syntax.ts, we write that file. That's TypeScript written by humans, and that runs through the TypeScript compiler into syntax.js. So TypeScript transpiles to JavaScript, syntax.ts transpiles to syntax.js, which is ordinary JavaScript you can run in, pretty much any browser or Node.js, all that kind of things. Now, parser.peg here, this is a parsing expression grammar. That's written by humans. That's written by me. And this thing imports that thing. So we have to compile the syntax from TypeScript to JavaScript, then import the JavaScripted syntax into the grammar, then run that through the peg.js compiler, which turns the peg file into a JavaScript file containing a parser. Then we need to import the parser's JavaScript into the interpreter, which pulls in the syntax using a TypeScript import, and it pulls in the parser using a JavaScript import. Then the interpreter runs through the TypeScript compiler, which gives us interpreter.js, and that's the thing that reads a input file, which is going to be a Rockstar program, and creates output, which will be whatever the Rockstar program does. So that's the architecture we're playing around with, and I wanted to be able to kind of do this thing with... Visio is brilliant. It's the thing I love about Visio is that it, for me, it's like a perfect way of making information look attractive, like presenting infographics and these kinds of diagrams, without getting sidetracked into actually thinking you're in a drawing program. And it's just got some really nice features. Like, how bendy do you want all your lines to be? I can select the whole lot, and I can go, where on earth is the thing? So, yeah, line options. No, yeah, there it is. And you can go in and you can grab a shape, and you can go line, and you can be like, how round do you want the corners to be? And you're like, not round at all, please. And it'll square them all off for you. And you can be like, actually, but of course you can do that by picking up every line on the diagram and going that one, and that one, and that one, and that one, and that one. And I'd like all of them to be really super bendy now, please. And yeah, which is kind of cool. Now, I've been using Visio since before it was owned by Microsoft. I installed Visio on Visio version 4 in about 1997, and it blew me away with how good it was. And it's, in a way, it's kind of gone backwards. There's a couple of things that worked really well. Like, the kind of snap to grid used to, like, you just zoomed in, and you see you get, like, the dynamic grid, like, the grid gets bigger and smaller. But they've added all this smart behavior about what shapes snap to other shapes, and a lot of the time it makes it impossible to line things up, because I want the grid to be king. Everything else is like, if it doesn't line up with the grid, it's in the wrong place. Whereas this is like, oh no, we want all your shapes to line up with each other. I'm like, no, they're all in the wrong place. I want to snap one to the grid, and then anyway, we are getting slightly off topic here. Although that's becoming something of a theme in these streams that I'm doing. So that's what we got. That's the architecture that we're kind of running through on this thing. Now, I got in the last session as far as, let's fire up the Visual Studio Code. So we were looking at how to define test fixtures, because there's basically, looking at the GitHub repo, it seems you aren't using strict mode. Okay, what I'm about to do may well enlighten you as to why I am not using strict mode. What is TypeScript strict mode? I have never heard of this thing. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's why I'm not using strict mode. I didn't know it existed. Is this like option explicit in VB script? Hey, it's learning. This is like hour 5 for me as a TypeScript developer. Yeah. Parse in strict mode and emit use strict, always strict. What is it? What does it do? Oh, cool. It's a dev2 post, or dev2. I like dev2. I started out writing code without prioritizing. I switched to TypeScript. I migrated my code without turning the strict mode on because I knew that blah, 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 blah. Okay, according to the docs, when TypeScript strict mode is set to on, it will validate your code using the strict type rules under the strict family to all files in the project. No implicit any, no implicit this, strict null check, strict property initialization, strict bind call apply, strict function types. Okay, this is cool. This is interesting. Let me just whack that up a little bit so that you can see what I see, and we can. So implicit any type rule disallows variables or functions. Consider this example. Okay, so that's saying, okay, so list here, that's just JavaScript. Anything you like, put it in the bucket and we'll try and figure it out, all right? Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. No, that's cool. That's interesting. You know what? We're going to switch script on. Oh, strict script. It's like TypeScript, but stricter. Try saying that 10 times fast. Let's switch it on and see what happens. So what do I need to do to make it work? I just need to put minus always strict on the, this is a TypeScript TSC compiler option, right? So I'm going to grab that, jump over here in my package.json scripts TSC. Let's plug in always script there. And now this might blow up on the interpreter because the interpreter is having to import the JavaScript. Let's try it, see what happens. That's so npm run build, whack that up a little so we can see what's going on with it. Okay, that appears to have worked. npm run start. Let's see what this does. Okay, that's both clean. So far, so good. So far, it looks like what we got is all good. Let's do an npm test and see what we get out of that one. There is a kind of cycle time here of a few seconds, which is just enough that it starts feeling like awkward silence on the stream. I need jingles for that. I could run every time I hit the compile, I'll get it to play a little soundbite or something. Cool. All right, we are enforcing types. We have the type system, which is kind of nice. Let me just git commit just in case anybody else out there is looking at the Git repo and going, why are you not using strict on this? Git commit -m set TSC to all, what was it? Always strict. Let's push that and just check. I am on, yeah, should be all good. Yep, I'm on main. That's all nice. All right, so as I was explaining last time around, one of the frustrations with the way that the existing kind of Rockstar implementation works is that all of the test fixtures for it. Let me bring up another Visual Studio, another code instance so I can show you. So the other project is CD, D project CD. I think it's in GitHub/Rockstar/Satriani. Yeah, so code in there. So the Rockstar test suite is a set of files with a rock file and a rock out file. So we got input file, output file, program file, output file, and what always strict is something else. What have I missed? Minus strict, not always strict. What? Okay, let's try that. Let's try that. So switch over to the other Visual Studio code. This is a great example of one of those kind of things. You know, there is a model of learning and a model of trying new things where it's like, I have a problem, I know what the answer to my problem looks like, I'm going to poke the computer with a stick until the thing that it produces looks like my answer to my problem. That worked. There, done. I learned a thing. And an awful lot of developers, particularly if you're kind of teaching yourself stuff and you're working on your own, it's very, very natural to do that. Let me just npm test that. Because you're like, you know, you don't know what you don't know. Okay, interesting. That's blown up in... where is that? That's interpreter.ts is gonna blow up all over the place. Okay, that's nice. So let's see. It may be impossible to fix this, but let's go through them one at a time. So let's have a look at syntax.ts line 317. So syntax line 317. Okay, so right. So yeah, okay, the output constructor. Now, output in this instance, output has to be a reference to a function that takes anything and... right, so I need to look up the TypeScript. What's the type definition for a function thing? So TypeScript, type system, types. Yeah. That did not remotely help. Getting started. Why TypeScript? Yeah, TypeScript deep dive. Do I want? No, I do not want the gitbook.io. I'd like TypeScript. What I want to know, what is the function for a function? What is the TypeScript type of a function that takes a string? If anyone has it, feel free to drop links into the chat and I can click on those instead of Googling around. TypeScript function type is probably what I want. Writing the function type. So I, yeah. So if here I, Yep. Okay, so first of all, this thing takes anything, because this thing needs to match the function signature of console.log in Node.js, because it'll take any function and it'll give that back. This arrow functions, yeah. So what do we... if I put in a function syntax that says this thing is gonna be a... the color scheme is called... I think the color scheme is called Synthwave. I can check, hang on. Color theme is Synthwave 84. Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at the chat. I can see everything that's coming up in here. Arg string goes to void. So function, so this thing will be arg any goes to void. Is that what we want? So yeah, I love the whole like the retro wave, synthwave type aesthetic. It's the future that the 80s dreamed of before we realized the future we were actually going to get. And it's a lot shinier and has more hot neon pink in it than the future we actually got, which is cool, and I like it. So I've hacked around a little bit. Yeah. So now it's one of those things where it's like if you can read enough different programming languages, you can look at that and be like, all right, well, output is clearly a thing that takes an arg, which can be anything, and the arrow probably suggests it returns void. So once you've seen the correct syntax, it's very kind of intuitive to understand what it means. But there's a world of difference between that and being able to write it, you know? It's like the difference between being able to, I don't know, read French and the difference between being able to speak French. So arg can be anything, yeah. So that function definition needs to match, like the console.log function is what gets injected into it for a Node.js runtime environment. You'll need to add output as a type to the class environment. So output needs to be, yeah. Hang on a sec, gimme. So this is gonna be output is there already. So when you say add it as a property, I got output as a thing, so that's all right, cool. Okay, yep, good. Let's see, so what was the next thing that blew up? Output has an any type. Let's see if that one goes away. npm test that lot. Run that through again. I just plug a guitar in. I can play little guitar riffs every time it's compiling. So we got as far as... all right, that's good. The top error message now says, could not find a declaration for parser.js. Okay, this is the point where it's like, I don't even understand what these import star as parser from parser.js. Now, parser.js is going to give us headaches because I didn't write it. Parser.js is JavaScript. I have a feeling that we may struggle with enforcing strict typing. So just to show you what we got here, I wrote this. This is my grammar. I run this through peg.js. That gives me this. This is generated by peg. This is large. And it is not TypeScript. It is JavaScript-y stuff. And it knows nothing about type systems and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of wonder whether this is gonna work. Like, is it even possible to enforce kind of strict type checking when we are importing JavaScript? Let me have a look at TypeScript strict ignore JS import is kind of what we want to do here. Importing untyped JS modules, yeah, that looks promising. Yep. We need a .d.ts. A what? Okay. Like a header file. Yeah. Okay. So we got a add the below rule in your TS config. D.ts might actually it's probably pretty straightforward because although the parser.js is big, the only thing that it exports that we need is a this thing here. That's all it exports. It exports a parse method and it exports a syntax error structure. So if we can come up with a syntax for... Nah, you gotta bear in mind that 6 minutes ago I didn't know what a d.ts file was. Let's have a look. Documentation, modules, that, fine. So that's fine. So let me just check in here. What does syntax error actually look like? Thanks for the link, Pete. Let's take a look. What do we got? We've got a... Yep. I assume I'm going to fix it with a def before I start. So if we do end up having to turn rules off and ignore things, then that's cool. We can turn rules off and ignore things. But it would be interesting if we didn't have to do that. So I'm going to create a file parser.d.ts, and in here, export function. So this thing needs to match, basically declare the... Click the link again. Yeah. Set the parameter no implicit any false under compiler options. Yeah. So let's I'm going to see if we can get it to work with the safety on. If it doesn't work with the safety on, that's cool. We'll switch the safety off. But I want to understand what the safety does and be confident that it is actually going to be a showstopper because of the structure of the project before we do anything. So I've got the parse method here. Now that parse method is going to return, let me just check what the function syntax is. Parse input. So input and options here can be any input, kind of needs to be a string. So export function parse input string and options. Let's go with any for now. And this is going to give back. So parse is actually going to return a language node, which is a... I mean, yeah, Stack Overflow is really interesting. Kind of like what I was talking about a second ago. Because some people, like the ethos of Stack Overflow, some people are like, this should be a place for sharing wisdom and knowledge. And other people are like, I don't care about being wise. I just want my bug to go away. And, you know, both approaches kind of have a place. Both of those things are... right, why is that complaining? Cannot find name language node. Is that going to matter? And what as I was saying to some folks on the stream the other day, I kind of like to bounce between the two. Like, I want quick fixes, and then I want context, and then I want quick fixes, and then I want context, and quick fix, and context, and quick fix. And eventually you get to a point where you understand enough. So language node is already defined in syntax. So what I need to do is work out how in the d.ts file, TypeScript d.ts file, import type. Import class and definition file. Yep. Yep. And yeah, just copy the after 2 years of TypeScript development, I've managed to solve this problem. I'm glad they fixed it because this will save us 2 years. I'd hardly say building an esoteric language interpreter is a real-world problem, but it is, you know. Right, I'm just going to grab the import syntax. So somewhere over here I have my interpreter.ts. So I want to grab that. What happens if I import that into this? Export function pass input string options any output syntax dot language node. Okay, let's see what we get. Let's see what we can see. Run that. I do occasionally have these it occurs to me somebody might one day be like, should we hire this guy to build some software for us? And they look at the Twitch streams and they're like, yeah, parser.js is import. It's exporting a, hang on. Let's open the parser.js file. Yeah, it's a module.exports. So how do I do a d.ts for a module exports? Documentation, modules, let's have a look at that one. So there's that. So that. Yeah, no, this... So I've got module exports equals a function and a type. So what we got here, that's exporting. So syntax error, parse is a method, and syntax error is a it's a type. It's a thing. Let's have a look at what that looks like. Also a function, but it's a type function, not a method function. If you know the whole weird thing with JavaScript and so what's the syntax that I'll need on here? I got import that. Export function parse should be that. So I've yep, that's yeah, export function module dot exports equals. This is very much the kind of quick fix thing. Like I don't entirely understand the difference between the two different module import styles that have been established in modern JavaScript, but we'll figure them out. We'll get stuff working. Let's have a look at what we got. So that's that, and then how do you export a type? Because I need the syntax error thing exported as well. It's just the function definition. Thank you, the Dragon's Apprentice. Let me see. So export type, syntax error. Message expected, found location, name. Yeah, maybe still be on an hour. If not, I'll probably be back on tomorrow. But that's cool. Thanks for stopping by. Nice to see you. So we've got peg, syntax error, message expected, found location. I'm just going to try this. Message any, expected any, found. These things can be tightened up later. That's the whole idea here. Is and that's actually, it's declared as a function, not a type. So let's see what happens with that. So we're back over here. Let's do npm test on it again. Actually, I'm just going to do npm build. We want to get a clean npm run build. npm run build. Okay. Different errors, I think. Yep. Tier 7006 interpreter parameter errors explicit any type. Let's have a look at. So I'm gonna just go through. Okay, so there's obviously a bunch of stuff in here. That export class Rockstar static run program needs to be a string. Yeah, no, that's fine. AST equals parser.parse program. So we need to define there. Argument for options was not provided, but that's all right. What's the syntax in TypeScript for an optional parameter? TypeScript optional parameter. Yep, that's nice. In TypeScript, every parameter is assumed to be required by the function. This doesn't mean it can't be given, but when the function is called in in JavaScript, every parameter is optional. We can get this functionality in TypeScript by adding a question mark to the end of the parameters we want to be optional. So in our type definition, options, where does it go? Does it go on the, hang on. Yep, okay, so that's good. That's nice. That's there. So ast.length. Parse does not give back a language node. Parse gives back a list of language nodes because that's how our parser has been built. So that's going to give back an array of those. And then what do we got on here? That takes a program. That's a string. Parse the program. That's fine. That's fine. Return standard out. Let standard out equal. Now that's. Does that need typing? Am I gay like other hacker men? Hello, butthead. No. I fancy girls. Who are the other hacker men? There's clearly a trope here that is lost on me. But, you know, that's the joy of putting stuff out on the internet where other people can come in and contribute their intellect and scintillating observations to the conversation. But thank you for your contribution. If you see any nice, interesting bits about TypeScript that you can drop in here, feel free to shout out. So we've got a syntax environment standard out. Let's run that and see what we get out of here. All right. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a TSC ---- strict. What did we have on there? That was interpreter dot, no, TS, not JS. That's right. There we go. Yes, terminate the batch job. There, TS. I just think the nice thing about heckling is, you know, if someone's heckling you, hey, at least they're paying attention. Like, of all the things that they could find in their life to look at right now, they've decided that they're looking at you. And, you know, parameter air, so that's interpreter.ts 721. Function run program. Okay, that's cool. So we need to, that even, yeah, okay, that's fine. So run program. So error in this case, what is the type of error going to be? Error, is there an error type built in? And program here is going to be string. And if error throw error, rockstar.run program, that's fine, console.log result. That might actually run through the TypeScript interpreter cleanly now. No. So export function. Do you have any tips for developing on Windows? Yeah, lots. I mean, I grew up on Windows. Windows was like Windows, I think Windows 2. So I started out on Amstrad CP/M, and then I did MS-DOS for a bunch of years, and then I installed Windows on DOS, and you know, or then started working up from there. So I've been on Windows a long, long time. A certain amount of it is just about what kind of feels intuitive to you. I ran macOS exclusively for about 2 years, and I found it really, really odd because in Windows, like, we don't have the control key and the command key. They aren't different. We got control. So on the console, you have Control-C is break, and in Microsoft Word, Control-C is copy, whereas you switch over to macOS and suddenly copy is Command-C and break is Control-C. And everyone's like, yeah, that means you can copy and paste from terminals. And you're like, yes, but as someone who grew up on Windows, the idea of copying and pasting in terminals is still something that just kind of isn't part of my muscle memory. So you start picking it up. WSL, the Windows subsystem for Linux, is awesome. If I, we'll take a very brief diversion here, but I can probably, there we go. So this is full Ubuntu 20.04 running inside a, it's not quite a VM, it's like an abstraction layer. So this is me, if I go to cd/mount/d/ where were we, projects, cd GitHub, cd Petrucci, do an ls in there. So this is the exact same code that we were working on, except now I'm working on it in Ubuntu. So if I come in here and I do a jest, that's going to say node command because node's not found. So I need to go and do a whole bunch of, because I don't have a node, the right node interpreter installed on Ubuntu here, but I can do an apt-get install node.js. Sudo apt-get install node.js. Yep. So this is Windows, but it's Ubuntu, and it's Ubuntu, which means you have everything that Linux does. Hello, cat. How are you? So yeah, we got WSL2 working on it. It has issues with different kinds of virtualization. So I have an Android emulator that I use for doing like cross-platform web dev and JavaScript dev, and I basically need to switch something off in the Windows settings and reboot it to get, it's called Genymotion, I think, yeah. So Genymotion's the Android emulator, and if WSL is working and Docker is working, Genymotion doesn't. And if I toggle the virtualization so that Genymotion works, yeah, it's Hyper-V versus whatever the other abstraction virtualization layer in Windows is. But basically I can't run, if I'm working on stuff that needs Docker and WSL, I can't work on Android stuff at the same time. And if I'm working on stuff I need to test on Android, because I don't have any Android devices, I use iPhones and stuff, which is always fun, you know. So anyway, we were finding and fixing errors. So interpreter.ts line 16, standard error implicitly has an any type. Let n equals, so that's, I know the derailing is kind of fun. You know, it's yes, I do. I have hardware virtualization support is enabled, but it's the two different virtualization models that are baked into Windows. So, hello, Victory. Thank you. That's very nice of you to say so. It's always nice when people on the internet tell you you're the best. It's very good for validating the ego, which has been stuck indoors for like 9 months. Standard out needs to be an array of string. How do we do that in TypeScript? I'm guessing I just do that. No, that maybe? Let's try that. We had 5 errors. If this one goes down, gives us 4 errors, it means we fixed a thing. 1 error! Boom, look at that. Alright, and this is good, because this is the thing that I didn't know if it was going to work, which is the export syntax error function, which lacks return type, annotation, error, implicit return type. So I want to know in TypeScript if we have a... so TypeScript.d.ts type for function thing. Because it's a... Okay, I'm going to just try something that might work. I have no idea at all if this is going to work. Let me see if that works. Export type syntax error. No, it doesn't want that. So what I've got is a... in the generated peg.js grammar file here. So this thing, the parser peg generates this, and this thing has this... which is it's a function that's also a JavaScript class. So I need to export the or define whatever the TypeScript header syntax definition for that thing is. Okay. Trying to map a library to a DS file. This has an object that is a function but has properties. Okay, that's cool. Use declaration merging. What? Declare function ASD return type for that is build a function object with properties in TypeScript. Welcome back. That was a very swift hour. So what we're trying to do, I have a JavaScript file that has to stay in JavaScript because it's being generated by one of the tools I'm using that defines this type. So this is your classic JavaScript function where the function is actually a constructor which creates a JavaScript object. And I need to declare in my parser.d.ts, I need to declare the type of that thing. Now the function here is a syntax thing, so I need to know, what is the maybe I need a type for it. Maybe I need to separately define a TypeScript type that represents this syntax error, because that's what this thing is going to give back. But yeah, are we typing the function or what the function returns? In JavaScript, there is kind of the distinction doesn't make a huge amount of sense. So yeah, in JavaScript, you can do a thing like you can have function car wheels color. And then you say this.wheels equals wheels, this.color equals color. And it's like, well, what is that? And at that point, if we say var x equals car 5 red, that doesn't do anything. Because we could have a thing in here that says return anything, I don't know. Return 9. So we could have this thing which returns 9, or we could have var x equals new car 5 red. So in that example, x is going to be 9, but in that example, x is going to be a new car. Because the whole JavaScript thing, if you invoke a function using new, it declares an object using the function as a constructor, and that ends up, you know, on the stack or on the heap. But if you just call it, it calls the function, and yeah, it's odd. And yeah, what I'm looking up here is, what is this thing? I've got this function syntax error that returns an object that we know contains a certain number of properties. So what I probably need to do is to declare I think I need to declare a TypeScript signature for that class, that structure, and then say that the peg syntax error returns that, because it's all compile time type checking, right? So let me have a look in my syntax.ts. Let's try this. This is something we may revisit later when I understand more about it. But in my syntax definition, let's have a look at TypeScript lang org. This parameters, yeah, that's still any. So function, yeah. I'm not entirely. Let me try out what I think might work here. So this is my syntax.ts file where I'm declaring all the things that my program can blow up with. So I'm gonna if I export class from this, which is let's call it a parser error, or parse error is probably a slightly better way of doing that. Now this thing here, we got message expected, found location, and name. And those things are all, yeah, I'm thinking something along these lines. So, parse error message on this is a string. Expected is a string. Actual found is a string. Location, I think, is also a string. Oh, it can't it? Because we have interfaces, because we're in TypeScript. Export interface, parse error, location string, and name string, and that's fine. And then I should be able over here in the definition file to say this thing returns a syntax dot maybe I just call that error. Call it parse error. Okay, that can come out. We do not, in fact, need that, as entertaining and enlightening as that code might have been. So, let's hit it with a wrench and see what happens. Dang! Look at that. Beautiful. It worked. So now if I do an npm run build, this will compile all the bits of the Visio diagram and mash them into each other and give us an interpreter out the other side. Look at that. Now if I do an npm run test, I'm expecting a couple of little green lights that mean everything is working beautifully. Look at that. That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. All right, so let's do a git add everything, git commit, enables strict typing for TypeScript compilation, and then adds type decorations, is that what they're called? It's all the bits of the interpreter. Thank you, The Dragon's Apprentice. That was actually incredibly helpful, like both in terms of like suggesting something I should try, and then in terms of like helping us get it figured out, and that's all working. See you again soonish, if not sooner this evening, then catch you on the next one, hopefully. Take it easy. And thank you, appreciate it, really do. Type decorators to that. Defines types for the peg.js parser.js export in a separate parser.d.js file. All right, boom, run that, quit that, git push. Thank you very much. Boom. So, what's next? So, our little diversion into type systems, I think, has concluded successfully. I'm going to close that. So, we were looking at the syntax of the Rockstar test suite and the fact that it is a massive collection of input and output files, or program files and expected output files. And one of the headaches with this, so this is something new that I was working on just before Christmas, which is a new function, a new syntax for declaring functions. So you can say things like, Polly wants a cracker would define a function called Polly that takes a single argument, which is called a cracker. So this whole file here, now if you run this through the prototype interpreter that I got, it produces, so that's a function, shout Polly taking 100, cheese is delicious, put it in your, so cheese that 9, so that returns 109, and if you look at the output for there, 109, but it's really, really difficult once you get into this to keep track of which bits of input correspond to which bits of output. So I wanted an alternative syntax that would allow us to say, for example, here, expect 109, say. So to define in there, what is the output that we are gonna, clonk, what's the output that that method or that function or whatever should expect, just because it's likely to make the whole thing easier to maintain and easier to keep track of which inputs are supposed to correlate with which outputs, and that kind of stuff. So, and we got it almost working, apart from a very lengthy diversion into messing around with some regular expressions. Have a look at what we got. So there's Petrucci. These are the new test fixtures. So example.rock is here. Now, we were using square brackets here because at the moment the grammar that is being used in Petrucci is a toy grammar for doing mathematical expressions. We basically spiked the simplest possible thing, which had arithmetic, flow control, and I/O. The simplest flow control statement in any program is return. It's the thing that says, stop running this program, here's the result, you're done, don't run the expression after this one. That involved wiring up enough plumbing to get return statements working, output statements working, but the way that our language grammar was working here is that the round brackets were being used as mathematical parentheses, so we use square brackets in the comments here. So that gives me this function syntax here. So example.rock, that's decorated, that's decorated, that's decorated, and then throw not implemented? Nah. So if you have a function doing shout, so the whole thing about the test fixtures is that the inputs are known at input time. There is, so you're thinking about it, the kind of question you're asking is either like, how would you write a unit test for a random number generator? You know, well, it's like, I don't know, it said 99999. Is that random? I don't know, it might be. Everything in Rockstar is deterministic. And all of the fixtures are, so if we had a function that's something like, let me show you an example of what I'm thinking about here. So if we go into, say, conditionals, so if we got simple conditionals.rock, if true, say hello, say world, else say goodbye, say everyone. So for this one, I would say we want to decorate this with expect hello, expect world. And then the block that's below it, we're expecting it to say hello world. So a function printing arg plus, okay, so if we got a function printing arg plus 1 and arg plus 2, the way that that test runs is that if we have a look at the I/O definitions for it, there we go. So input test.rock, this reads things from standard input. This is the input file. So all of the inputs for it are defined in a separate file. So this thing says, all right, when you get your next line from standard in, listen to stores a line of input, and listen reads a line of input without storing it. So listen to my heartbeat, listen to rock music. That one should say first line, skip, sip, second line, and the output for input test.rock.out should be first line, second line. But you see the way it's all getting a little bit complicated. So for something like this, I would like to be able to say, for example, supply foo to that, whisper my heartbeat, expect foo, and then have the test runner parse those comments and use them to create the kind of the arrange and the assert that are going to be used. So the arrange means go through this thing, work out what the inputs and outputs are going to be. Act is run the Rockstar program, and then assert is verify that the things you got lined up with what you were expecting to come in and out of it. Now, this is not necessarily a good idea, but it is the best idea I have that feels like it's moving in the right direction away from the way things existed previously. Like, this is a pain in the butt maintaining all this stuff. It really is. It feels like being able to put the test expectations and things in line is going to make things a lot easier. So now what I want to do now, just as an experiment, I say as an experiment, I am going to grab a copy of the entire test fixture from Satriani, and I'm going to drop it into the Petrucci project. What is so D projects, GitHub, Rockstar, there we go, tests. So I'm going to grab this whole lot, and I'm going to go into D projects, GitHub, Petrucci. And there's tests, and I'm going to drop a thing in here called version 1, because at this point I think we are working towards Rockstar version 2, because I'm going to break stuff, because those of you who are familiar with the history of Rockstar will know that it was invented in a bar as a joke, and it contains surprisingly few horrible mistakes for a language that was invented in a bar as a joke, but there are a couple of things in there I really wish I hadn't done the way I did them. So we're going to fix that. Right, let's come back in over here. So in our Petrucci interpreter, I have here somewhere a bunch of... no, those are the tests, those are the fixtures. That source file is empty. Give me a .test. There we go, example.test.ts. That's what we're looking for. So yeah, this is what we got, and we got all these different describe run programs, fixtures path for each fixture, let program path equals that. That's test it works. Ooh, what is that coming from? Oh, cool, I've got a plugin that's running these things. So what I need to do is just work out how to feed a couple of different sets of input and output syntax into this thing. So extract expectations is the thing we were playing around with the other day that pulls out those comments. That thing is gonna run a test and extract expectations from program. That's gonna do the Rockstar.run. That's gonna run that thing. So I need to... I'm going to change around the way this extract expectations thing works, because I want that to work in two separate ways. If there's a .rock.out file, it should use that. Otherwise, it will parse the program looking for expectation comments in there. So I'm going to change the syntax. Extract expectations from currently takes the program listing, which is the whole thing. Also, this is a TypeScript file that is never being type checked because the jest interpreter just runs it, which is interesting. So what do we got? We've got test program path, extract expectations from arrange expectations. It's naming things is difficult. Let's go with identify. And that thing there is going to become a program path which is going to be a string. Okay, and so we have two scenarios here, which are we've got a fs dot file exists. It's fstat. What's the Node.js thing to see if a file exists on disk? Let's do a Node.js file exists. Probably fstat. How to check if a file exists is that if fs.exists sync. All right, that will work. If fs.exists sync program path plus dot out, return fs.read file sync, and that is gonna be program path plus dot out, and it is gonna take UTF-8 encoding, and there are no options to that. We just want to give back the whole thing. Else, we are going to let program equals fs.read file sync program path UTF-8. So I don't know if you all are familiar with the, to go on a weird tangent, sea shanty TikTok. Have you seen this thing? I just found out about this week because I'm hopelessly behind the times, and I've got the Weller Man sea shanty song just stuck in my head on constant repeat now. Just round and round and round, which is, you know, kind of, there are worse songs to be earwormed with. Right, that's a string. Sea shanties are great. They really are. It's like just wonderful, harmless fun. It really, really is. So, oh, hang on. I clicked something I shouldn't have clicked. There we go. That's fine. So, that's fine. Program path string, fs.read file sync. That should be, yeah. Oh yeah, some of the bass on there is just low. Seriously low. Do I need to do that? That'll work. That'll work. That'll work. That's fine. And so we've got our run programs. I'm just gonna now do a very, very simple describe read the sync for each test program and then test program on a path. So that thing is going to no, that can just be dropped in here. I think I've got a thing that doesn't need to be there. That should be able to go in there. Build that up. That's fine. So run programs for each drops a test in there. So I want now to, I'm going to drop that out because I want to be able to run this across multiple things. So I'm just going to say const cases string equals, and this is going to be ./test/fixtures and ./test/fixtures /v1/fixtures is the old Rockstar thing. So and now I want describe.each cases function. So this is gonna now take a folder name. Let's just do that, and this is gonna take a path and is gonna pass that into fs.read.sync path. That should work for that one, and that, nope, and that. Let me just check the jest cases syntax. I cannot remember off the top of my head. No, 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 no. Yep, 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 yep. That's right. It needs a, yeah. Yeah. So, we need a description, which is going to be all tests in whatever the name of the folder is. P there is pretty print, so whatever we pass in JavaScript will make it look beautiful for us. And then for each let program path, that needs to be test. Let's call that fixtures. That'll do. fs.readSync. I think, he says, with all the misplaced optimism of somebody who honestly has no idea. Okay, so that description, that matches that matches that matches that one. That needs closing out. That's what I need. So we've got and identify expectations. That's a little function here. If there is a rockout file, it should read the rockout file and make it work. Otherwise, it'll go through and try and extract expectations. Now, this is going to blow up spectacularly because I'm about to feed about 200 files into an interpreter that has no idea what to do with any of them. Let's run it and see. There we go. So npm run test. Curious. That. Okay, I've wonked something somewhere. That's not quite right. Program path equal that. That's the problem there. That needs to be that. Probably that needs to be that. So we've got, yep, I'm just going to do a console.log here, which is going to be a running tests from, just to give us a sanity check on the output here. Hey, Arendon, welcome. How are you? We're doing building a Rockstar interpreter in TypeScript. Probably for about another 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna knock it on the head and go and eat food and watch movies and that kind of stuff. But where are we? npm run test. Yes, this is one of my new projects for 2021, is to build an interpreter for Rockstar. I built one last year. I built the one last year in JavaScript. It was a lot of fun, and I learned an awful lot about building interpreters, and I also learned an awful lot about I don't know yet. So we watched all the Hobbit movies last week. Surprisingly good. I'd never seen the last one. Like, I'd never seen the Battle of Five Armies before. And got a little bit of a kind of, ooh, yeah, hobbits and elves and stuff are quite cool. And I've not watched the original Lord of the Rings movies for years. And I have the big extended edition DVDs downstairs taking up space. So maybe those. Or maybe Indiana Jones. Something old school that you know isn't going to be disappointing at the end, because this is really not the time in history to be going, yeah, I'm going to watch a completely new movie and hope that it's good. Sorry, Hollywood. Sorry, cinematic auteurs with your bold, controversial ideas. But I want the cinematic equivalent of a bowl of fried cheese. That's blowing up. Why is that blowing up? Running tests from... Okay. So, there's a nested directory inside a directory inside a directory thing going on here. Yeah, I see the problem. So the folder structure that I've ended up with here is Fixtures has got things in it, but v1/fixtures is full of folders, and those folders have things underneath them. So I need to come up with something that will run all the tests in a folder, and then something else that's recursive that will allow you to dig into other folders and run folders that are in there. Let me just check the syntax for fs read sync in Node.js. Yep. File names equals that. File names dot for each. That's fine. There we. All right. That's all right. That's fine. So I want to. Node.js is a path, a file, or a folder. Is path, file, or directory. What would we do without Stack Overflow? fs.lstat sync path sync is directory. Okay. Okay, so that's going to get us a bunch of stats, which is kind of cool. So we need a function here that is going to there's slightly, because of the way jest works, I'm just having to stop and think for a second. So hello, Chaos Lab. Yes, we're taxing sin. That's what we're doing. Syntax all over the place. There's actually, I knew a guy years ago who invested his pension in something called the Vice Fund. And the Vice Fund claimed that it would put all your money into alcohol, firearms, weapons, all this kind of stuff. And their idea was, hey, if you retire in a world where there's no money to be made in alcohol and firearms, you don't need a pension, because that sounds like a nice place to be. And it's one of those, that's morally bankrupt, but you can't really fault the logic. Invest in all the worst things in society, because if they do well, you're going to need the money. And if you lose all your money, well, hey, that's because all the worst things in society. Incidentally, I see the National Rifle Association have filed for bankruptcy, which is interesting. Anyway, I want to... Hey, Wouter. Welcome. How you doing? I'm only going to be on for another couple of minutes, but hey, you're here. Nice to see you. Yeah, we're building Rockstar interpreters in TypeScript. So, function run or test, let's call it test directory, and it's going to take a path, which is a string, and we are going to do a fs.read the sync on that path. And for that, we are going to do a for each. So we built the language already. Now we're building another interpreter for the language. So fs.read for each. So actually, I'm going to call that thing that directory, just to make it a little less ambiguous. So read the sync directory dot for each. This thing is going to be a path, and that is going to say. So this is where I need to do the fstat dot thing that. fs.lstat sync.is directory. So stat equals, let stat equals fs.lstat sync path. Path string is probably slightly cleaner in here. And I'm going to say that at this point, if stat.is directory, then I want to test directory on path string, because hey, that's how recursion works. Otherwise, welcome back, the Dragon's Apprentice. So we got the test directory there. Otherwise, we want to run all tests in... no, otherwise it's a file. Otherwise, we want to run test from file path string. That's fine. But at this point, that can actually be our this thing here. So I'm going to grab that chunk of code out of there, and I'm going to drop this in here. So at this point, path string is there, and we're going to drop that in here, and here, and here, and expect result to be expected. So that's, I think, going to give us the bulk of what we need. That can be commented at, because I don't think I need that. That can be commented at because we're not doing it. That was just making sure that jest is kicking in and doing the right thing. So there's our test directory function. So if I test directory now in /tests, what I'm expecting is a massive screen full of red. Error, comma expected. Example.ts, line 27. Oh yeah, that's a function syntax thing. All right. So one of the Chaos Lab just asked in the chat, you know, an interpreter for writing interpreters. That failed. Why did that fail? No such file or directory. Because it's the stupid thing where for each path string equals directory. What was the thing? It's a path.join directory, because it just gives you the Node.js read does sync. It doesn't give you the full name of the path. It just gives you the like short name, the local name of the specific thing that you're looking at that exact point. So that should give us what we want. So yeah, so no, the interpreter for writing interpreters, no. But one of the things that I am going to do with this is I want something on the web where people can actually see the parse trees, like the syntax trees for their programs, as well as the way the grammar is working with it. That looks extremely promising, because, yep, that's doing the right thing. So what we've got to now, every single one of these tests is, this is blowing up, but it is good. This is blowing up with a grammar error. Every single one of these files is unparsable using the toy parser that we have at the moment. So what I wanted to make sure is that it is actually going through, and for every single one of them, it is failing. And it is. That is exactly what it is doing. Now that's interesting. Illegal operation. Hang on, let me clear that and run that again, because I think that was an error from an earlier test suite. Is there a way in Jest, I wonder? I just want a summary. I just want a big list of file names with red lights next to them. Jest output summary. Just minus O, minus T, minus watch. Like compact output, or, you know, something tiny. Just compact output. Anyway, let's have a look at what we got there. Okay, 170 failing tests. Every single one of which should be failing with a syntax error. There we go, that's what we want. Comments, arrays, array likes. Boom, look at that. Now, believe it or not, 170 failing tests is where I wanted to get to on today's installment. So I'm actually going to leave that there. I'm going to commit that whole lot to GitHub, and then what this does is define a readme. Oh yeah, I need to do a thing. Hang on. I need to do a thing. The thing that I have forgotten to do here is if stat is directory, test directory, else if path string dot. I only need to test things that end with .rock. Oh, good morning, New Zealand. Hello, it's Sunday morning there in New Zealand. Is that? Yeah, New Zealand's ahead, so yeah. Cool, I'm talking to the future. Like, I'm literally talking to tomorrow over the internet. Still blows my mind that that's a thing we can do. Cool. All right, that's more like it. These are all .rock files now. So, yep, I'm going to knock it on the head there for today. I'm going to push that lot to GitHub as the most broken build I've ever committed to revision control, probably. And in the next thing, what we're going to do is to throw away the little toy syntax there that I've been using for this and start plugging in some bits and pieces of Rockstar syntax, and that 84 is going to start coming down. Now, at some point, I'm going to make the call that we are now going to start breaking things. And then what I'm planning to do is I will edit the Petrucci test fixtures in place. And then at the end, I can do a diff of the Petrucci. Oh yeah, man, lotto numbers from the future. That would be cool. We can diff the Petrucci test with the Satriani tests, and that'll give me a summary of everything that's broken between version 1 and 2 of the language spec. So let's do a git add a dot and a git commit. So imported all Rockstar v1 tests. They all fail. This is fine. Next time around, start supporting Rockstar language syntax in PEG. Start plugging in, modifying test suites. Okay, boom, ba-da-bum, bum. And we're done. Thank you for tuning in, friends. Very nice to see you all. I'll catch you on the next one. Take it easy. Enjoy your Sunday if you're in New Zealand. Enjoy your Saturday evening if you're here. Enjoy your Saturday afternoon if you're tuning in from the Americas. And if you're from that weird little place that is like on UTC plus 14, I hope your Saturday morning is going splendidly. Take care, folks. See you soon. I should have closing music for this. Like, yeah.